Okay, we are going to be beginning to work on our figure drawing, and we talked about that the human figure is 7.5 heads tall in class today. And very often when people draw the human figure, they use some sort of measuring device. Typically, like if you see somebody use their pencil, right, to indicate where we use the head as a measurement tool. So if I'm going to use that as a measurement tool here today, like I can see that her head is about a finger width, or my thumb width high. So I'm going from not the top of her hair necessarily to the bottom of her chin. Head number 2 then sits about here, just under her armpit. Head number 3 is at her belly button. Head number 4 is at that pelvic synthesis, or where her body bends. Head number 5 is mid-thigh. Head number 6 is below the knee. Head number 7 is the top of the ankle, and we have the half head down here at the bottom, which indicates her feet. You're going to be using both of these today as practice. They are in your supply kit. They are the figures that are the most straightforward to draw. They have the least body bending. They have the least difference. And I can do the same sort of thing. I need to find something that I can use as a measurement tool that is the same height as his head. And again, if I'm careful, I can use my thumb. So head number 1 is again the nipples. Head number 2, let's see, make sure I'm not like pushing my thumb down. Head number 3 is just under his belly button. Head number 4 is just past his pubic synthesis. Head number 5, head number 6, and head number 7. Let's just double check that because that seems short. 1, 2, I'm just a little off on my measuring. So if you get to the bottom and you're saying to yourself, this guy's only 6 heads tall, measure again. So here I'm gonna take a piece of paper and just try to be a little bit more specific about it. So here's measurement 1, measurement 2, measurement 3. So I was just over measuring. Measurement 4, 5, 6, we end up with 7 instead of 7.5. What that tells me is that his body isn't fully straight. And we can see that when we look at his pose. He's mid-stride, and so you can see that his body is curving forward. So it's taken out a little bit of his height. Okay, so now that we have that measuring done, what I'm going to do, and I can use a piece of paper if I want to keep everything nice and straight. I can roughly do it, and you'll see that I'm using my Vine charcoal. The reason for this is that I can easily get rid of it as I'm working on my illustration. It doesn't matter to me which of these 2 figures you do first, but you can see I'm taking the measurement of where each of those heads are across my paper in order to plan where the elements of my figure will go. And what this does is it gives us experience working with a figure drawing before we get to gesture drawing. So I recommend that you guys go ahead and just do one full drawing first, and then you can go ahead and move to the second drawing. You'll need to do both today as your practice. We're gonna do a couple of days of practice with the very structured drawings, and then we will move on and work with these proportions after we've had some practice doing some gesture drawings. So I know now that her toes will hit this bottom line, that the top of her head will go just through this top line. This will be her chin. This will be the bottom of her breasts. This will be her belly button. This will be where her hips are, her mid-thigh, bottom of her knee, ankle, and her feet. And I can see all of that over here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do some simple shapes, some roughing in or a rough gesture of the sketch of, or the shape of her body. So I can see right away that her head is angled in this direction. So I'm just gonna go ahead and transfer that direction right here. And I'm just using the side of my vine charcoal to kind of make that happen. Her neck here is the same. Her shoulders, if I line my charcoal up with the edge of her shoulders, you can see that it is an angle just subtly up and to the right, up and to the right. So her shoulder on the right hits the line, her shoulder on the left just dips below the line. So I'm going to indicate that here as well. Her arm sits next to her body here. Her elbow hits just above the line, and the second half of her arm angles up in this direction. So you can see I'm just using my charcoal to make some planning, some quick gestures. So I can add in her shoulders, I can add in an elbow. This elbow, we see it's just above this line and it sits very close to the body. Her arm then just subtly angles out this direction. I'm going to kind of think about where her spine is, and it is down the center, and it is fairly straight. Her pose isn't bent at all. From here, I can draw her leg, which goes at a subtle angle. Like if I line a pencil up here again, it's a subtle angle in this direction. Her foot is over her belly button. Okay, so if I'm thinking about over the belly button, her foot is over the belly button, her leg comes in this direction. Her second leg is straight and then angles in this direction. So you can see I'm making just some planning marks on my paper before adding in any of the drawing. Now when I go to add in my drawing, I am going to start just by adding in the shape of her face. Her neck comes behind. Her shoulder, this one hits the line. We have the curve of the top part of her arm. Her elbow sits above. Her hand goes in this direction. And this arm, I have the curve of the bottom of her swimsuit just under her breasts here, and that sits right at the bottom of this line. This shoulder, again, is just under. This arm is sitting much closer to her body, so we don't see her armpit here. Her waist comes in just above this line, the third headline. And then her body curves out. She has these little trunks on. I can also add the curve of her suit up here. We don't see her elbow here. Her hand comes out in this direction, just past her hip. Down the curve of the leg. And I could switch to, I should switch to my charcoal pencil actually. Her knee. But you can see now I am using those planning lines to draw her figure. Her toe is just back here. And I can get rid of my Vine charcoal now on the inside of here really easily so that I can see if I'm accurate, right? Like, is my drawing accurate? And if it's not, I need to just go back and I need to adjust, right? It's a very simple process. If I have drawn something too big, if I have drawn something too small, that is now my job. Like, her legs are super funky, so I'm going to come back here and I'm going to figure out, where are they funky? Why do they feel funky to me? Is it just that the angle looks strange because of the foreshortening we're experiencing, or is it because I have drawn something wrong, right? So we want to make sure that that's something that we're thinking about as we're working on finishing these. Have I done something incorrectly, or is it partially the angle? Right, so making sure that that is something that you're considering. And then, like I said, you do want to make sure you're going back with your charcoal, because the Vine charcoal is just going to disappear. So I want you guys to go ahead and practice both of the figures that you have today, so that you have both the drawings kind of perfected. I'm going to look for little things, like I think her foot is maybe too far over. Yeah, her foot should be over here, so I can come back and I can try to fix that a little bit. This leg really bothers me, and I think it has to do with a couple of things. I've curved out the side of her leg too far. There we go. So I'm like constantly looking for the little things that are making the drawing look a little strange. And then know too that this is practice. We're all just learning how to do this, or I'm not learning how to do it, but it's been a while since I've done it. So this is practice for all of us. And I want you to do both figures. So do both the male and the female figure. And they don't need to be any more detailed than this. You don't have to get super crazy with your figure drawing or the details that you're putting in. But you can see here, as I get rid of some of my Vine charcoal lines, my actual drawing of the figure can sort of show up. And it is a little bit more accurate than I maybe originally thought it was. I need to bring her shoulder up, maybe just a little. There we go. So go ahead and practice. Make sure you do both figures and upload a photo of your two figures to the Google Classroom.